Shock Monkey Radio is entertainment for adults, by adults, and the views and opinions expressed here do not reflect upon the sponsors or FXBG Public Radio. For additional information, please refer to the United States Bill of Rights. Stand warned. I know you ladies love Dexter and flick your bean thinking about Richard Ramirez and Ted Bundy, but you're giving away the game with all your crying and complaining about this Roe versus Wade decision. You know, I've wondered if you are all pro-serial killer for most of my life, but now we know it for certain. All your crybaby nonsense also proves that you have no idea what you are talking about on this subject. So when you protest and destroy in cities whose abortion laws will not change even with this decision, you're just showing how stupid you are when you react like a 4-year-old who didn't get their way. Up until this point, you were unable to define what a woman actually is, saying men can get pregnant too. You're like Squeaky Fromm. You're hot for serial killers and therefore clearly insane, and everything men feared during the temperance movement leading into giving overly emotional women the opportunity to vote. Not saying I want to take that away from you, but I present to you leaders like Gavin Newsom and Justin Trudeau as a rebuttal. Yeah, you bet I want to make abortion illegal worldwide. And I also want to outlaw gay marriage. But you know what? I haven't gotten what I want. And yet you are the ones throwing a tantrum. You're going to be able to kill your babies in your liberal cities and states. But even so, I haven't seen you asshole Democrats this butthurt since the Emancipation Proclamation. Then again, those of you who are saying you're going to abstain from sex over this decision, well, maybe you do get it after all. You should be sexually responsible, you damn murderous sluts. Wait. Come back. I'm sorry I came out so hot. I promise this is the hottest I'm going to be today, but, you know, it was in the chamber. You know what I'm saying? I'm very sorry. Please hang out. And I want to tell you honestly, welcome to Shock Monkey Radio. I'm your host, the Madman. Don't take anything I say seriously. I'm just some crazy guy on the internet. You know, so, welcome to Shock Monkey Radio. I'm the Madman. I want to remind you that I have a Patreon. Go to patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. After calling you all those horrible things, please send me money. Also, I have a Cash App. Use hashtag shockmonkeyradio. I'd appreciate either one of those or both. If you like, you can also follow me on social media. I got the things over here at Denaltz on Twitter, Shock Monkey Radio Redux on Facebook. We'll talk a little bit more about something I posted this week later. And at SLRobbins13 on Instagram. Also have books available for digital download on Amazon. Search for the author Scott L. Robbins with 2 T's and 2 B's, or you can follow the links down in the description. Yeah, welcome. So let's hey, we're trying to have fun here. So I went to Sakura this week, and if you don't know what that is, that's a Japanese steakhouse here in Fredericksburg. And you know, I don't go to those places very often. They are somewhat expensive, but I love it. It was so good. It's, you know, sometimes you go out and you have a meal and you're just like, wow, that was a really good meal. And it'll be like, oh, I had a really good meal this one time at Sakura, and then like, I want to go recreate that, you know, and then you go like 2 weeks later or something like that, and it's like, oh, I'll go have that again, and then it won't be the same, you know, because it hasn't been long enough, you know. I don't know. It's just, I thought it was like something a little happy to think about, something to change the pace here a little bit. Yeah, speaking of the Shock Monkey Radio Redux Facebook group, I posted some things this past week, a couple days ago, in the Key and Peele, or was it last night? I don't know. I was drinking when I did it. But it was Key and Peele Twilight Zone. And I recently rewatched Key and Peele again because it's a hilarious show. But it's I also thought it was like, hey, you know, this is almost like in some ways, it's almost like a Twilight Zone episode. Some of these sketches are like a Twilight Zone episode. You know, even the valets. The valets is like every time they go off and, oh, what about racist ass Melly Gibson's? Racist ass, and they'll go in this, they'll have this awesome little rant, and then something will they'll blow up. They'll turn into confetti. You know, they'll fly off in Iron Man suits or something like that. You know, and it's like even those sketches, It's almost like a little Twilight Zone a sketch. And so I did these posts based upon clips that I watched of Key and Peele that I pulled off YouTube, and I wrote a little like Twilight Zone entry. So that's an incentive for you to go and look at Shock Monkey Radio Redux. It's like a little Twilight Zone intro for these little sketches. And the sketch that made me think of it was the one LaRon Can't Laugh. And if you don't remember, it's this guy's telling jokes, and there's one guy in his group of friends who's just making laughing gestures and noises and stuff like that. And then they finally get him to laugh, and he's laughed so loud it like blows out their eardrums. They're bleeding from the ears. And now you know why I couldn't laugh. And it's a little Twilight Zone story, you know what I'm saying? Plus humor, So it makes me wonder if like Jordan Peele and Keegan-Michael Key, if they had they'd been working on like a Twilight Zone series, and then we got a contract with Comedy Central. We got to turn all these stories into something funny. It's like, well, what about this one story where this guy's like a post-apocalyptic wasteland, and this guy's he hasn't seen another person in years, since the undoing. And finally comes across this guy, and he meets him and stuff like that, and he's crazy, and he's a serial killer. It's like, stop. Instead of him just being crazy and there's this interpersonal drama between this serial killer guy that runs into, let's just put a rainbow wig on him, and he's driving on a scooter, and he's playing with a katana, touching dolls and touching mannequins inappropriately. It's like, oh, yeah, I guess that's kind of funny. Anyway, so I think that's something you should probably look at. Go to the Facebook group, Shock Monkey Radio Redux on Facebook. You can check out that little perspective. I always thought it was interesting because I love Twilight Zone and I love Key and Peele. Why not combine the two? Why couldn't it be a funny Twilight Zone episode? I've laughed at Twilight Zone episodes, mostly because of anachronistic things. Anyway, so here's another thing I was thinking about. Speaking of like a post-apocalyptic world, I was thinking of like if like COVID-19 was like super worse than it was and like wiped out most of the population, of Earth, like 90% of the people on Earth or something like that. God forbid. But it was a post-apocalyptic world where like the internet could still exist. Like the internet would still be up and running in some ways. Up until a certain point. And I was thinking, like, if there was a situation like post-apocalyptic world is like, and the internet was still working, I would be trying to talk my family and friends that I'm staying with, and we all got rifles, and because it's a dangerous world now. There's so much stuff laying around, and so I would probably try to talk to them. It's like we need to get to FXBG Public Radio Studios. See, assuming I would come and get EK. It was like, we should start podcasting during the apocalypse. And then, during podcasting during the apocalypse, if you get like 100 views, you're like, wow, we're viral. You know what I mean? Everyone all over the world's talking about us. We got 100 views. But I also would like go and try to find other podcasters. Like I might try to go find Tim Poole. He's over in West Virginia. I'm here in Fredericksburg. So, I guess we could try like trekking up the hill and like you're poking around trees with your rifles. Looking for Tim Poole's compound. I see you got a half pipe in the backyard. Am I in the right place? And so, it's like, well, I don't want any trouble. We just want to exchange supplies. I got a bunch of comic books. I'll trade comic books for steak. Just to eat. If you have any of those MREs you're stockpiling. It's like, yeah, Tim Poole's still alive. I'm still alive. We could do a collaboration. That's the best. I think those are the best odds for me to do a collaboration with Tim Poole. But if the odds are that good, maybe I'd talk Tim Poole into going to Tennessee. We'll go to Nashville and we'll try to find the Daily Wire. And we'll be sitting there in like the streets of Nashville with our guns, walking down the streets. Stop there. Who is that? And see a guy he's got a yarmulke on. It's like, we're looking for Ben Shapiro. And then when the world population is that much smaller, maybe I could have a chance of being on Ben Shapiro's show or Matt Walsh's show. And if something like that happened, Clavin wouldn't still be around. I'm sorry. Anyway, so, but I could sit there and I can go to that compound and have this collaboration with Tim, and I'd have to sit there. I'd have to finally say to Tim Poole, it was like, yeah, I guess you were right, Tim. You got the MREs. I got comic books. But you want my best Justice League books for only £5? Anyway, God forbid anything like that happens. All right, I want to talk about my Navy weapons training. Now, it's funny because people think that, like, I was in the Navy. It's like, oh, yeah, you probably fired all sorts of weapons and stuff like that. It's like, yes, I have. And they're like, oh, that must have been like stuff off ships. It's like, no, I never fired guns on ships. I wasn't a gunner's mate. That's specific. I wasn't even a master at arms. Master at arms are the guys who handle the, personal weapons, I guess, what they call them, small arms. So, but the gunner's mates handle like ship's weapons, and there's also like fire controlmen and stuff like that. There's other different jobs for different tasks on a ship, and so it's like in boot camp, I thought I was going to have to fire real rifles in boot camp. And I was like, and I thought, that would be cool to fire a real M16, And I talked to my dad about his boot camp experience, and he said it's like they all trained but this was Vietnam era, they all trained in Navy boot camp with M1 Garands, And so, so I thought that would be cool, maybe I get to train with a M1 Garand. I would like to fire one of those. But I thought, probably not. It's not Vietnam era anymore. It's the 90s, mid 90s, or real advanced. So I'd probably be firing an M16 in boot camp. And I didn't get to. I didn't get to fire an M16, and I was extremely disappointed. I always wanted to fire a fully automatic rifle. I mean, I've had experience with firearms before, but it's mostly rifles. But I always wanted to fire a fully automatic rifle, see what that's like. Something I've never been able to do. It stinks because I'm not an arms dealer. And so, never been able to fire an automatic rifle. And so in boot camp, instead of firing rifles, they gave us an M16, but it was basically stripped down, and it had like a laser at the front of it. And the target was across the room. And so you're not firing actual rifles. They called it Recruit Nintendo, because of Duck Hunt, and that's what it was. And so you have to sit there, you aim at the center of the target, click, 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 and you had to get 10 in the bullseye area, before you're passed through the thing. And I'm just like, it was so silly and disappointing. It was like, but at the same time, it's like they realized, like, 90% of these recruits are never going to fire a rifle ever at sea. The idea is to repel boarders. And if someone's trying to board a U.S. naval vessel, that's when you start passing out small arms to the crew to fight off the boarders. And so, but that rarely happens. A lot of a lot of nations wouldn't dare try to like board a ship. And especially in like the sail era, boarding was an extremely effective method of like taking a ship. And so, but in the modern era, because of modern weaponry and stuff like that, it's a lot more difficult to board a ship. And if you've seen what's that movie with Captain Phillips? Is that the one where the thing gets overtaken by Somali pirates? U.S. military vessels will go right through those waters, and those Somali pirates wouldn't dare. They wouldn't dare. So that's the whole idea behind the Ricky Nintendo, is that, you're probably not going to end up needing to fire a rifle anyway. So why necessarily just go through the basics? They had a class beforehand. They tell you how a real M16 actually works, and you put the magazine in, you pull this, and then you went and fired the laser guns. And then, that was it. Congratulations, you passed Navy boot camp without firing a single weapon. So I was disappointed about that. Plus, I was still, 20 years old, and I was young enough to be so idealistic that I thought this is all part of my training to become Batman. I was like, I got 10 years to become Batman. I was still 20 years old and still thought that I was going to learn to become Batman. And so Batman, of course, has to learn the weapon of the enemy, the weapon of the streets. He has to learn firearms. And plus, being disappointed I never got to fire a rifle for the Navy, I went to firing ranges during my time in the Navy quite a bit, just to try different firearms, and mostly pistols. And it's because I found pistols to be my weak point, because I've always been really accurate with rifles. I have far more experience shooting rifles than I do with pistols. And so I focused mainly on pistols. and I fired every kind of pistol I can get a hold of. And I remember the reason I'm talking about this is somebody posted in the group I'm a part of, and they said, I want to get a firearm. I was like, what would you suggest? And my suggestion is to go to a range and like try a bunch of different weapons and find one that you like the best. And it's like, that's the great thing about these ranges is that you can rent different firearms and stuff like that. And I did a lot of that when I was in the Navy. And people would say to me, it's like, hey, you go to these ranges all the time, you're shooting all the time. It's like, why don't you just go out to the quals and get the sharpshooter or the expert marksman ribbon? And it's like, because I'm not doing this for the ribbon. I'm doing this because I want to learn and understand the firearms, how to use them safely and effectively. And so, because I'm going to be Batman one day. I went and I learned all these different firearms, what I liked best. And if you ask me, like, my favorite type of weapon is probably, my favorite weapon I ever fired was a Colt Delta Elite. It's I don't even think they make it anymore. It's a 10 millimeter Colt pistol. And I just thought I don't like 9 millimeter pistols. I find 9 millimeter guns to be more like a pray and spray kind of weapon. It's more about volume of rounds. I do also like the single stack 45s. I think they're an elegant weapon that's lasted the century. Since it's been invented. It was invented in like 1911. The 45, the Colt automatic pistol. And so it's a fantastic weapon. There's an elegance to its simplicity. I do like that. But essentially, if you can't find the Colt Delta Elite, I also do like 40s, like any kind of 40 cal weapons. I find that they're, especially modern ones, they're quite effective and quite accurate. Anyway, but my point is that, I was disappointed I couldn't actually fire weapons for the Navy, but I ended up looking into firearms on my own, just for my own personal understanding. And people were like, why don't you get the medal? It's like, I'm not getting the medal because I want to impress anybody here. That's not why I'm doing all this shooting. It's the skill. And a lot of people would say, it's like, oh, you should go out and, try to get one of these medals or something like that. It's like, I'm not concerned about the pewter on my chest. And it's like, a lot of these people in the military, they care about how many ribbons they got. And the only ribbon I had was a good conduct ribbon, and I found it to be a pain in the ass because I had to go to the Navy Exchange and I had to buy the ribbon and I had to put it on all my dress uniforms. It's a pain in the ass. Well, thanks for the recognition. Now I got to go spend more money and make sure I keep it on all my uniforms, But I mean, I guess it's considering I'm a madman, it's like I did get a good conduct medal. I did behave well enough, even though I had to F the Navy website. That's the delicious irony of the good conduct medal. But the point is that I'm not interested in pewter. I'm not interested in ribbons. It's the knowledge that I want. And so I think that if you're trying to buy a firearm, if you're trying to become Batman, you need to learn all this stuff. Obviously, by the time I was 27, I realized, I'm probably not doing this Batman thing, But, at 20 years old, I was like, yeah, I'm going to be Batman one day. Young, dumb, and full of cum, they say. All right, I want to talk about one more thing before we get into the news, and that's I've been thinking about a movie called No Country for Old Men lately. And I don't know if you've seen this movie, but it's a very excellent film. Very excellent film. No Country for Old Men. And if you haven't seen it, I'm going to give away a bunch of spoilers here, so you can just go ahead and skip like maybe 5-10 minutes. But there's a couple of characters I want to talk about, and that's Llewellyn, that's Anton Chigurh, and that is Sheriff Bell. And let's talk about Llewellyn first, Josh Brolin's character. Llewellyn is an interesting character because you think he's the protagonist, but he's not. You think he's the protagonist of the story, but he's not. He's just a good old boy, Vietnam vet, out hunting one day and stumbles upon something, and that's kind of how it starts this whole story in motion. He stumbles upon something. And now this good old boy, Llewellyn, he finds himself with these choices, right? And whenever he makes a selfish choice, it turns out okay for him. But whenever he tries to do the right thing, that's when stuff goes wrong for him. It's really kind of interesting as far as the character with Llewellyn, because it's, and in comparison to other characters as well, is Llewellyn, he finds this money, right? And in the process of finding this money, he comes across this Mexican guy, the last man, alive, and he asks him for agua, for water, and he says, I don't have no agua, I don't have any water. But he goes and gets some money, he gets all the way back home, and in the middle of the night, he gets up out of bed, and he goes and fills up a jug of water, and his wife asks him, what you doing? And he goes, something stupid. So even he knows, it's like, I can't sleep on this. I cannot sleep on that man dying out there just asking for water. I got to do a humanitarian type of thing. Even he knows this is stupid. I'm going back to a place where it's like a cartel standoff and people are going to be looking for whatever, that money. So I'm going to go back there to get this guy some water because it's the human thing to do. And he does the right thing, and it causes him a world of headache when he finally gets over there. Then, because of what happened after he goes back out there, gets shot at and stuff, he runs back home and takes the money and runs and tells his wife, to go live with her mom or something like that. I can't remember the detail. Her mom, yeah. And so, which is, kind of a selfish thing to, kind of the right thing to do is to send his wife away. But then his wife becomes endangered because they're looking for Llewellyn and the money. And so, and Llewellyn, he's sitting there, like, even right before he gets killed, there's that girl hitting on him at the pool, and he's like, I'm married, I got $2 million in a satchel, and girls hitting on me in a pool, but I'm still going to do the right thing. And he gets killed. And it's kind of an interesting thing about that character is that, you think he's the protagonist, you root for him, but he, the choices he makes that are the right thing kind of end up getting him killed. And that's the nature of the world sometimes. Now let's talk about the randomness, the chance of it all, and that's Anton Chigurh's fascination. Anton Chigurh's fascination is with chance. And it's something that he can't really control to a more certain degree, but he still tries to harness it in many ways. And that's the whole point of the coin flip. That's the whole point of the car accident at the very last part of the film. Chigurh, it's also the point of him like blowing up that car to create this chaos, create this randomness in order to, steal some medical supplies. And that's the point of his character is he's fascinated with the idea of chance. As I flip the coin, you call it, because it's impartial. He finds it to be fair, and it's impartial. But he bases what he does, is am I going to kill you or not, kind of thing. And then, his Llewellyn's wife like challenges him. She's like, it's not the coin, it's you. It's you who's making that choice. And then, he gets in a car accident right after that. Something that you cannot control. The randomness and the chaotic nature of the universe. And this is the deadliest killer that's been put on screen in years. You know what I'm saying? And even he understands that, there's things out of our control, out of all of our control. Finally, I want to talk about Sheriff Bell and his constant whining throughout the film. And if you pay attention to Sheriff Bell, he's constantly whining through the film. It's like he's sitting there reading the newspaper and stuff like, can you believe what I just read in the newspaper? What happened 2 counties over? Can you believe what I just read? These people are crazy every single day. And then he goes and talks with his old friend, or is he related to him? I forget. But he talks to that guy from Northern Exposure, and he says, I feel outmatched. He's a cop, and he's seeing all these horrible things that people do, and he's frequently whining about this, even with other cops, frequently whining about, these crazy things people do, these gang members shooting each other up, and he sums it up. Sheriff Bell sums it up by saying to this guy from Northern Exposure, saying, I feel outmatched. I feel like it's too big and it's too hard, it's insurmountable for me. And it's insurmountable to me, and that is and it's never been as bad as it's been right now. But what does his friend say to him? What does he say to him? He says that, he tells a story about this having to bury, a family member or something like that. during hard times, during the Depression, I think. And so, yeah, a wife had to bury her husband all by herself during the Depression because there was no one around to help her and stuff like that. And he says something to the effect of, this country is hard on people. And when he says this country is hard on people, he doesn't mean just the United States or just that area of, Texas and Southwest, excuse me. It's the entire world. The entire world is like that. And he says, this country is hard on people, but if you sit there and you think that, it's insurmountable and that it's the worst it's ever been, that's vanity. That's vanity. That's thinking that you've got it worse than everyone in history ever had it. And I really like that scene because it calls out, it's a very, very political way to tell Sheriff Bell to quit whining. And so that's the point of the story. The point of the story is that this is no country for old men, and the point is it's never been a country for old men. It's never been a country for any of us because it's hard, it's difficult, and it's harsh, and even in the very last scene, Sheriff Bell's talking about these dreams that he had where he had his father gave him some money and he lost it, a dream like that. And that's like a kind of an accountability type of dream that kind of associates with the idea of Anton Chigurh, who has to go around. It's like somebody lost his money. I got to go find it. And so the other dream, I think, is far more important, where he has a dream about his father, and they're both riding horses, and it's dark, and it's cold, and it's windy, and they're freezing, and his dad rides by him, and he's carrying fire in a horn, like they used to in the old days. And he goes on up ahead, doesn't say a word. He's got his blanket wrapped around him, and he's going up further up the trail, and he's watching his father ride off up ahead, and he goes, I knew my dad was going to go out there, make a fire for us out there in the cold, out there in the cold. It's a literal torch dream in many ways. But the whole point of it is that, you have your family, you have the men who've come before you, the men and the women who have come before you in time, and they go out and they make a fire out there in the cold for all of us. And this is why when we say, we stand on the legs of giants, we stand on the backs of giants and stuff like that. That's the previous generations and all that they have done to make a fire in this cold wilderness that we all live in. Because this is no country for old men. This whole world, it's a very dangerous place. However, your family, your love, your faith, it's like these are the fires in the wilderness of the chaos of the world. I think I'm going to stop that rant there. Clip that. Anyway, let's go on to get the news worth knowing. Usually we have a stinger, but EK has been busy on Wednesdays the last couple of days. I don't know if you saw, I posted a promo video of me and his new puppy. So he's had to take it to the vet, and it's like the only days they've been available is Wednesdays. So he has to take his dog to the vet, and it's the cutest damn dog. And I'm convinced that the last 2 weeks, I got to take the dog somewhere because he thinks I'm going to steal that puppy. And I just might, because I think I'm in love with that dog. Never heard him bark. He's going to be big. He's going to be a big one. And he's got like a one blue eye, his name is Felix. It's like, you should name that dog Bowie. Anyway, so yeah, we're going to get into the news. Let me wet my whistle. I've been ranty today. All right, so more than 24 states to restrict abortions after the Roe versus Wade overturned in the Dobbs decision. So 13 states in the country are poised to enact immediate abortion bans, and at least 13 more could quickly follow suit after the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade on Friday, leaving abortion rights back up to the states to decide, like a republic would. At least 13 states in the country also have so-called trigger laws banning most abortions that will take effect immediately or within the weeks of Roe versus Wade being overturned. According to the Guttmacher Institute pro-abortion rights research group, those states are Arkansas, Idaho, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, and Wyoming, which just passed its trigger law in April. Oh, I don't want to Wyoming. There are also 5 additional states, Alabama, Arizona, Michigan, West Virginia, and Wisconsin, that still have an abortion ban on the books from before Roe versus Wade that will go into effect now that the 1973 landmark law was overturned. Well, you don't hear about anything in Virginia. Anyway, the Democratic governors of Michigan and Wisconsin have pushed back against those laws. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, of course, filed a lawsuit in April asking the Michigan Supreme Court to stop enforcement of the state's 1931 abortion ban, and Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers has called for the repeal of an 1849 state law that makes abortion a felony. Thus, the overturning of Roe v. Wade causes at least 18 states to ban most abortions almost immediately, according to the Guttmacher's research. 4 additional states, Georgia, Iowa, Ohio, and South Carolina, all have laws banning abortions after the 6-week mark, which were previously ruled unconstitutional, but will now be revisited now that Roe is overturned. In addition, Florida, Indiana, Montana, and Nebraska appear likely, based upon current legislative efforts, to move to ban or severely restrict abortions now that Roe is overturned. In total, the Guttmacher Institute estimates that 26 of 50 states are certain or likely to ban abortion now that Roe is overturned. The Center for Reproductive Rights, an abortion rights group, counts 25 states as likely to ban abortion, including North Carolina and Pennsylvania, but not including Florida, Iowa, or Montana. Meanwhile, abortion access has been expected to continue or even expand in blue states like California and Oregon, which have moved to protect abortion rights in recent weeks. So that's good news. In most of the United States. I'm upset, of course, that Virginia is not included in that list. But, I don't have enough patrons to move to Fredericksburg, Texas. Because that's what EK and I say. It's like, if we have to move to another state, I would suggest we move to Fredericksburg, Texas. That way we can keep FXBG Public Radio. Anyway, yeah, this is fantastic news. Millions of lives have been saved. I'm lucky I made it. I made it to Earth in the era of Roe versus Wade. And so, and everyone who has lived, the generations that have survived that 50-year period, are starting to realize how wrong it is. And it's fantastic news. We've had a lot of, as a conservatives, we've had lots of good wins over the last couple of weeks, and it makes you feel better about it. Maybe the world's getting better. Do I have? Are we still live? That says I have no internet. Let's try this again. Huh. Weird. Says I'm offline. Anyway. I guess I could just read the headlines. Or maybe I hit. No, I'm so sorry if this is boring. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I flipped the switch. My internet connection was restored. Well, here's the problem I'm finding is that I'm an idiot. All right. So refresh the Facebook thing. So I got to go down here. Yeah, let's talk about this nonsense with Cassidy Hutchinson. Tony Ornato did not brief Cassidy Hutchinson that Trump tried to lunge at Secret Service agent from sources. A source close to former President, Deputy Chief of Staff Operations Tony Ornato said he did not brief January 6th committee witness Cassidy Hutchinson on one of the major allegations that she made at the committee on Tuesday. Hutchinson, a former top aide to the White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, testified to lawmakers Tuesday that Ornato told her former President Donald Trump repeatedly demanded that Secret Service take him to the Capitol on January 6th. Ornato further told Hutchinson, according to her, that Trump lunged at a Secret Service agent and tried to grab the wheel of the presidential SUV when agents would not allow that. However, source close to Ornato told Fox News that Ornato watched the hearing yesterday and was shocked when Cassidy made the allegation about the steering wheel. Both Bobby Engel and the top agent on Trump's Secret Service detail, who was in the car, and Ornato who was not in the car, testified to the January 6th committee in private over the past year, the source close to Ornato said. Engel and Ornato never brought up the part about the steering wheel, according to that source. Both want to testify on the record again and refute the part about Trump grabbing or trying to grab the wheel. The driver of the SUV, who is unnamed, will also cooperate with the committee. A source close to the USSS says Hutchinson was truthful when she said that Trump was furious inside the SUV. Trump did want to go to the Capitol on January 6th and was yelling and shouting. However, the steering wheel part is false, per the source. Now that's a believable story. Trump ranting and raving, probably even saying something. I'll jump right over there. I'll grab a hold of this wheel. You're going to take me. You're going to take me to the Capitol. I'm going to jump. I'll do it. I'll do it. I will. I can't get the seatbelt. I can't get the seatbelt. That sounds like a believable story. The nonsense of him trying to jump. That's sensationalist nonsense. Anyway, Hutchinson also made several other allegations against Trump during her testimony, many of which Trump denied in a flurry of posts on his social network, Truth Social. Of course he did. She told lawmakers that Trump demanded that the United States Secret Service get rid of magnetometers outside of his rally so that more people could come in, despite being told they were not entering the rally because they were armed. Hutchinson also said that she heard Meadows tell White House counsel Pat Cipollone, forgive me, that Trump said former Vice President Mike Pence deserved chance of hanging Mike Pence from the mob. Hutchinson also said Trump smashed a plate out of anger after former Attorney General Bill Barr said the Justice Department did not find significant fraud in the 2020 presidential election. I don't care about the plate. People smash plates, especially rich people. I'm poor. I got those ones that'll just go wah, 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 bounce off of stuff. I got the cheap ones that last forever. Anyway, so yeah. This lady testified, first of all, it was all hearsay. She was heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend who heard it from another. You were grabbing the wheel. So what I'm saying is that, first of all, it's hearsay. And it's all pointed at the idea Trump is so bad. He's so bad. Can you believe how scared they are of him? It really drove those people crazy. Trump's presidency really drove those people nuts. And so he's not even president anymore. He's probably not going to run again. And if DeSantis runs, DeSantis probably, I hope, would beat him out of the water. Just beat him running. I'm a little bit of a wild card. Yeah, that's exactly what we don't want. That's what we don't like about you. I'm a little bit of a wild card. DeSantis, I think he's a serious man. He doesn't, trying to think he's Don Rickles every time he's talking to the public. So it's it's all hearsay, and they're terrified. They're so scared of Trump that they've gone this crazy, that they're still having this kind of coverage, that they have people making up these lies, just because they're that mad at Trump. And everyone who's sitting there is like, who's watching this shit? Who's watching these hearings? Honestly. People who like to hate watch The Apprentice. So I only like watching The Apprentice because Trump's such a dick. Those are the kind of people that watch that kind of stuff. Anyway, let's go talk about these idiots in Hollywood, West Hollywood. Water. West Hollywood votes to cut Los Angeles County Sheriff funding amid a crime wave. A trendy Los Angeles County community has voted to reduce law enforcement funding despite escalating crime that was up 137% earlier in the year and public backlash. The budget for the next 2 fiscal years will leave West Hollywood with up to 5 fewer Los Angeles County Sheriff deputies on patrol. At the same time, the council approved increased funding for a cultural arts festival. The budget was approved by a narrow 3-2 vote, with the mayor, Lauren Meister, Meister dissenting, as well as Councilman John Erickson. Quote, most of the residents and businesses I have heard from are opposed to cutting the sheriff's budget, Meister told Fox News in a statement. They are outraged that people and organizations from outside our city are dictating to council how to run our city. The narrative that we can have either sheriffs or social services, either sheriffs or unarmed security teams is false. Over the past few months, residents and business owners have voiced opposition to cutting the police budget amid a crime wave across the country. Prioritizing people's safety just doesn't mean people with badges and guns on the street, Council member Lindsay P. Horvath said during the meeting. We have to find another way to keep our residents safe in a way that is affordable. Mayor Pro Tem Seppi Shine amended the budgets to reallocate funds for the sheriff deputies to block-by-block program, which staffs unarmed security ambassadors who provide the city with supplemental law enforcement services. Quote, we have talked for 2 years about reimagining policies and reimagining policing means, reimagining policing and reimagining policing means reallocating funding, and that's exactly what that means. You can't just say it without actually doing it, period. Mayor Pro Tempore Seppi Shine said. Sorry if I'm getting these names wrong. Erickson said he worries about the trajectory of the plan that was approved and the timeline with which it could be implemented. Community safety is our number one concern, he told Fox News. Okay. When I've heard from countless residents about how they want to feel safer, that involves comprehensive planning and something that is not just drawn out over a decision. 2 deputies will be withdrawn in the fall, and the program will be evaluated over 6 months. By then, the city's law enforcement presence could be reduced by 3 more. An entertainment policing team will be restored. Quote, in my mind, there's an increased safety services with 60 additional eyes on the street working directly with the residents and the sheriff and code compliance and our social services providers and 2 fewer deputies this fall. Councilman John D'Amico told Fox News in a statement. Despite the reduction in law enforcement funds, the council also voted to give $14,000 more to the Russian Arts Festival for an increase of $50,000. Fox News has reached out to the Sheriff's Department. Surging crime in West Hollywood has been an ongoing concern for many. That surge includes murder, rape, burglary, aggravated assault, arson, and human trafficking. Wonderful. Well, at least you got the Russian Arts Festival. You know, I'm not saying that, $14,000 or even $50,000 means keeping those cops, That's one thing that, let's be honest, that's $64,000. That's probably maybe one cop's salary, but that's, this is West Hollywood. They got to be paid more than that. They got to be. Anyway, so I don't know what these people are doing. Just letting crime go, I guess. All right, let's talk about people from Europe and why they think they can chime in on all this nonsense that we're doing. Meghan Markle says she and Prince Harry had guttural reaction to abortion ruling. Quote, men need to be more vocal. I'm trying, Meghan. I'm trying. Nobody wants to listen. Nobody cares what some white guy has to say on the internet in America. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, Meghan Markle is opening up about how she and her husband, Prince Harry, reacted to the reversal of Roe versus Wade. My word. The Duchess of Sussex spoke to award-winning journalist Jessica Yelling about the impact of the Supreme Court's decision for a Vogue feature published on Tuesday. While discussing Harry's thoughts about the ruling, the 40-year-old said his reaction last week was guttural, like mine. Men need to be vocal in this moment and beyond because there are these decisions that affect relationships, families, and communities at large. Excuse me. The former American actress explained. They may target women, but the consequences impact all of us. My husband and I talked about that a lot over the past few days. He's a feminist too. We know. Excuse me. All right. I think I might be done. All right. The mother of 2 stressed it's important for people, now more than ever, to sneeze, to band together. Excuse me. Tickling my nose. Anyway, I know for many women right now, there's a sentiment of despair, said Markle. But again, we have to band together and not wallow. We have to do the work. This moment requires unity, really listening to people, understanding the Constitution written, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so here's my message to all you Europeans who think you're so much better than the United States. I don't care what you think. I don't care what you think about what we do. We're doing the right thing. And even when Roe versus Wade was in effect, we were the United States had the most liberal abortion laws in the country. You flew here. You rich bastards in Europe flew to the United States to get abortions. Okay? Okay? I don't care what you think. All these people, you hear these people like from other countries. It's like, and why does anyone in the United States give a shit about that? About them? You know? Why do you care what they think? You know, these British guys, you know, we fought a war against them for a reason. They've always thought that they were better than us, but they're not. We took some of their ideas and made it awesome. But they still sit there on their little cold, wet, rainy island looking down their noses at us. Up their noses with rubber hoses. Anyway. Been ranty today. Let's talk about a couple funnier, more upbeat stories before we get out of here. EK's not back. I'll probably have to shut off the show again. That's okay. I know how things work here. So Halsey fans leave concert when singer voices pro-choice views on stage in Arizona. I have no idea what Halsey is. A number of attendees at a Halsey concert, somebody does concerts, I guess, in Phoenix last weekend reportedly left when the singer started voicing her pro-choice views. Quote, here in Arizona, you guys got to promise me that you're going to do the work so that the person to the left of you and to the right of you has that right for the rest of their lives. If you don't like it, you can go home right now. I don't care. Though without me, singer said between songs about the right to an abortion, reportedly prompting a number of people to do just that, according to the Los Angeles Times and Billboard. She also reportedly led fans in a My Body, My Choice rant. A concert goer later tweeted, the amount of people who just walked out of this Halsey concert after Nightmare when she spoke about abortion was sickening. Halsey, excuse me. Halsey didn't seem deterred, however. She retweeted it, writing, downside of doing outdoor venues, no door to hit them on the way out. That's actually a pretty good clapback. Anyway, I guess she's at Halsey on Twitter. Profile name just says H. Who are you? I guess it's like a singer? Anyway, downside of doing outdoor venues, no door to hit them on the way out. That's pretty good. But she probably has a team of people doing, you know, what's the best? Come back to that, you know, her entourage or whatever. Anyway, the singer has previously been outspoken on abortion rights. Quote, I have been advocating for abortion, reproductive rights, and bodily integrity for as long as I've had a platform, and I'm running out of ways to word and frame the severity of the impact that fundamentalism has on our country. She tweeted on Friday. The same day, the U.S. Supreme Court voted 5-4 to overturn Roe versus Wade, which guaranteed a woman's right to an abortion. A person who claimed on Twitter she had left the concert early said it wasn't because she disagreed with the singer's speech. Well, if you're going to be talking, I'm going to go. Anyway, quote, I waited the whole show for her to perform that song and give her speech and left after because... she waited because she had just heard the song she wanted to hear, and she started talking. So it was like, we got a 5-hour drive home, and I wanted to beat traffic while leaving the venue. That makes sense to me. I'm sure there's at least a few people who did that. Not everyone left because of what she said. It was my favorite part of the show. LOL. Sure. Whatever. Psycho. Another commenter stood up for the fans who stood up and left. People attend concert to enjoy the performer's music, not unexpectedly get lectured on political or social issues that clash with your beliefs, he wrote. Just because other patrons disagree with you, this doesn't make them bad people. This mindset is ultimately going to destroy us. That's pretty insightful, after all. Very, and nonpartisan in many ways. Just because your patrons disagree with you doesn't make them bad people. This mindset is ultimately going to destroy us. It's quite insightful. Anyway, Halsey also said in her speech that she had had an abortion that saved her life, quote unquote, saved her life, and that she'd struggled with the infertility before her baby was born. She and her boyfriend, Alev Iden, have a 1-year-old child. You know, it's, I don't know who this person is. Never seen her before in my life. But apparently she does concerts. And, you know, I think that artists really should stay out of this kind of political stuff. It's like Billie Joe Armstrong. When that's kind of the biggest artist lately that, you know, it's like Billie Joe Armstrong saying, I'm going to renounce my U.S. citizenship. And I'm like, bye. You know, you guys weren't that great. I mean, you were the best punk band I ever heard, but, you know, that's not saying much. Punk sucks. And so, I don't care about what Billy. You want to, but he's not going to leave. He's not going to renounce his citizenship because he's not stupid. He knows that if the rest of the world starts getting authoritarian, the United States probably is the best place to be. If the world really gets authoritarian, anyway. Jeez, Louise, like who cares? Who cares what these people think about politics? Do your stupid song. Sing your little song. We don't want to hear your nonsense. I don't care what you think about political matters. It's like you go to a baseball game and some guy, these two friends like drop this big banner that says, like Trump 2026, or 28 or whatever. Why'd you bring that to a baseball game? What is that? How much paint did you have to buy? Did you have to buy a bolt of fabric to make this thing? Why would you bring that to a baseball game? What's wrong with you? It's not that important. It's friggin' baseball. I want to watch a baseball game, not a bunch of guys wearing pink. Anyway, let's get this last story, and then we'll be done. Dad of Boy Scout who aided Amtrak passengers in Missouri describes the scene. Lots of bleeding, I bet. So 2 Boy Scout troop members from Appleton, Wisconsin, who were on board the Amtrak train that derailed on Monday in Missouri, found themselves using some of their own critical scout training to aid their fellow passengers. And the dad of one of them shared new insights with Fox News Digital about what happened. Eli Scripsa, 15, helped comfort the driver of the dump truck that was hit by the train. 15 years old, wow. The scouts were on their way home from a high-adventure backcountry trek in New Mexico. Dan Scribzak, forgive me, and the father of Eli, and the Boy Scout master himself, told Fox News Digital on Tuesday that after the boys were able to pull themselves out of the train, his son Eli ran to the front and found the driver of the truck lying in a ditch. He provided comfort and rendered first aid to the truck driver, said the dad, who was not on this particular trip, but described what his son and others told him. Gave him water and just helped him get him comfortable and stayed there until State Patrol officer came over, said Dan about the son's efforts. He added they tried to stabilize the driver, but unfortunately he did not survive. Wow. Said the dad, there were 15 scouts and 7 adults accompanying the scouts on the train. When the train derailed, most of the kids were on their phones. A lot of them lost their phones, and they went flying when the train derailed. Oh, yeah, I bet. If it's in everybody's hands and you take a collision out of everyone's hands. Wow. I haven't thought about that. Anyway, a number of them tried to get out, said Scripzak. Forgive me. Some sort of Eastern European name. I don't know. Maybe Russian. I don't know. But they weren't near an exit, so they were trying the windows, and some wouldn't open. The kids eventually had to force or break the windows open. Then they proceeded to help folks get out. Because they're Boy Scouts, of course. He continued, my son Eli ran out in front of the train to help victims. Ran to the front of the train to help victims. My son found the driver of the truck who was hit by the train lying in the ditch, provided comfort and rendered first aid. After that, Eli went back and helped some of the other scouts to get people out. There was stuff strewn all about, people sitting on the side of the train and had fallen on others, he had said. There are lots of injuries, lots of bleeding. He said the scouts jumped in and did what they were supposed to do. He said that it took about 10 minutes for EMTs to arrive. In that time, they helped get as many people out as possible. Anyone who's complaining of injuries, they helped mobilize, get people on backboards, and help get people to the ambulances. Dan further said the scouts were keeping some of the really smart kids entertained. She said one mother that the scouts were awesome because they helped keep her 2-year-old occupied while she tended to her older child. I was proud to hear even simple things like that. The Boy Scouts administered first aid in their leaders to their leaders until the EMTs arrived, he also said. The kids escaped without major injuries. One was hospitalized briefly, and 3 adult leaders suffered some non-life-threatening injuries, but they took care of each other. He added one scout was stuck in the bathroom for over 35 minutes. They couldn't open the door because he was being blocked by a victim who appeared to have gone into cardiac arrest. Oh, dear Lord. All things told, he said he was just proud of all of them, Troop 73 and Troop 12. I don't know if if I would have had the poise and courage to be calm and be part of a solution at such a young age, as he said the boys had been. Right now, he also said, we are working on getting them all home. I am just excited to hug my boy. Right now, Eli is just sore. Emotionally, he seems okay, not real clear if the adrenaline and shock have fully subsided. He explained that the scouts had been on their way home from the trek in New Mexico. To go on the trip, they had to be at least 14 years old and they had to have a first-class ranking. To attain that rank, he said, the boys needed to have first aid merit badge and other trainings that are important to them in terms of being out in the backcountry. They used those skills they acquired in this situation. There's more to the story. I'm not going to keep reading. But that's the point of like all these badges and stuff like that. That's the point of the scouts. It's like, that's the point of going to the range and learning. To have the knowledge, to know it for yourself. And it's like, I don't necessarily want the first aid badge. You know, I'm just glad that I've had CPR and first aid training. You know, that's all part of the Navy. You know, we all had to do that, first aid and CPR training. And so it's the knowledge I want, not the patch. And it's because of situations like this. Because, you know, just some Boy Scouts. I mean, it's a joke now, you know. People make fun of Superman. It's like, shut up, you overgrown Boy Scout. You know, they use it as an insult. But the whole concept of the Boy Scout is this heroic type character, the guy who's going to come and help you in a time of need, and that's why they have the Boy Scouts, and that's what the Boy Scouts should be focused on in many ways. You know, they kind of get too caught up in other things sometimes. But I mean, this is why, you know, people, you know, do Boy Scouts. Because, you know, sometimes you're going to need some help. Sometimes you're going to need somebody to go build a fire for you off in the distance. You know? Because it's a dangerous, chaotic, crazy world we live in. This is going to be the end of the show. I want to remind you again that I have a Patreon. Go to patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. Become a patron. I would appreciate that very much. I also have a Cash App. Hashtag shockmonkeyradio, all one word. If you want to send me money that way, I would appreciate that as well. I also have books available for digital download. You can find the author Scott L. Robbins with 2 T's and 2 B's on Amazon.com. I got The Ravings of a Madman. I got The Bunny Years, a memoir about a superhero. And I have the Exit 13 series. Make sure you read them in order. Read the description. Make sure you get the first one, second one, third one. And yeah, I would appreciate that. Also, you can follow me on social media at DenalitSaw on Twitter, which is the word wasteland backwards, Shock Monkey Radio Redux, which I mentioned earlier, on Facebook, and at SLRobbins13 on Instagram. And this has been Shock Monkey Radio. I'm the Madman, and I love you.